kimchi is almost exactly the same story as the sauerkraut with a few different additives. Again, you don't really put any starter culture in it, but that's kind of not true because you always put fish sauce in it. And you might remember when we did the condiment class, we actually started making fish sauce. But it takes quite a while for it to work. This is full of acidophilus. On a completely different but somewhat sidebar topic, I was reading an article I saw in a journal 2 days ago and found out that ketchup is actually a Cantonese word. And it originally came from southern China, and it was all based on fish sauces. It wasn't until it got over to North America they actually started putting tomato in it. So it actually started about 2,000 years ago in southern China, made it to the Philippines, made it up into India, made it up over into England, and then they brought it over. It wasn't until the 18th century that Heinz and the boys decided to start putting tomatoes in it, then copyrighted the word. But they put a K-E-T instead of the Cantonese is a K-A-T, or sorry, C-A-T is how it's really said in Cantonese. So that's kind of interesting. So again, a lot of these things have come up through China. So now the most objectionable thing here is you think that sauerkraut might taste bad in your house. Now you might have fermenting squid and other things on your things with lots of garlic. So basically you're talking any vegetable you want to put in there, but things that you almost always put in fish sauce, you almost always put garlic in it. And we've got a few recipes in there. But you want the balance of the various texture. You want to grind it up. Now you can shred it just like a sauerkraut, which Malcolm's done at times, and that's a type of kimchi. But typically it's cut up into chunks, and we'll be looking at that later. Again, you're still brining it and you're seasoning it. So momentarily we're going to look at the traditional recipe here. I can keep the kimchi, so it takes 5 days to 7 days before I can eat it, but I've kept it in the fridge easily up to a year. Sometimes you may, if there's no liquid and I wasn't really careful and put a weight on it, I might have mold in the top, quarter inch, half inch, just skim that off, and all the stuff below it is way too acidic for any mold. So as long as the mold isn't stringy enough going down into it, when it has legs, as they say, goes down into it, everything is just soft and soggy, and you wouldn't want to eat it anyway. It's not going to hurt you at that stage, it's just all moldy. It just doesn't taste very good. So it's got into the aspergilluses and stuff like that. Remember how we talk about aspergillus to make various things? Even when we get into the wines and stuff, we'll say aspergillus will make sake. But the cooking sake we use in the Japanese thing, it didn't have hardly any alcohol because they put salt in it when they were making the sake. So that'll stop the alcohol, stop the molds from growing. So it'll only grow, half an inch down. Skim that off and keep on going. But I did lose several batches at the beginning, but after you got used to it to a certain way, a certain period of time, you just don't lose any anymore. So I'll start with the process here.
If you have a whole batch that's moldy, do you have to clean your lids a special way afterwards?
Yeah. What would you think of this? So the question is, if you have a whole batch that's moldy, the whole container is moldy, would you have to clean the lid in a special way? Yes, you would. What would be the easiest special way? Boiled water might help, yeah, but there's easier. Pardon? Brine? No. Vinegar. That ordinary, everyday white vinegar that everyone's killing their pickles in, that are making pickles, you take that, you pour it in, and so even these pots, when I'm cleaning it, I clean the whole thing with vinegar water. 50% water, 50% vinegar. If I have something that's really moldy, I use straight vinegar. So the stuff that everyone else is eating, we're using to de-pesticides or to get rid of the critters we don't want. So most of what you're seeing here in the water, and I can't tip it over, hopefully you can be able to see is there, is actually come out of the cabbage. So one of the things, and there's many ways, you can just chop it up and put it in there, but what's really happening here is that you soak it. So what I do is I took a bunch of salt and put it in between the leaves, and then put a little bit of water over it, and I had a weight on it before. That plate was there, but before that there was some big weights on it earlier. And so it's done. So this is, you should let it sit for 5 to 12 hours. I've often done it overnight. But they say you take the wind out of it, so it's kind of soggy. This is a very crispy Napa or kimchi salad. So we take it, and so it's kind of like this kind of wimpy, or the wind has come out of it, or it's just like a balloon that's kind of deflated. So they're really soggy, and that's the way you want to have them. And what we're going to do is take that. Now you can just take this right here and start making kimchi, and lots of people do, but that'll be kind of salty. What you can do is literally rinse this off with some water. Nope, not going to use the brine. So all I'm really doing is taking a lot of salt. I'm going to put some more salt in it later. So again, you can do it just as is, or rinse some of it out. Now comes the most important part of all, is the squeeze. Now remember how I said before that you squeeze, and I mean really, really squeeze? So you have to make the cabbage rain. And so you can chop it up earlier, but if you leave it in quarters like this, and you just like twist it and turn it and put as much squeezing in as you can and get as much water out of it. And I would normally just do this right over the sink, because all that stuff is discarded. So I squeeze it lightly like this, and then I'm literally wringing it like I'm wringing out a towel. And they say you haven't done it until you've really made the cabbage rain or cry. Now, again, you can do it without doing this step of the 7 hours, but it comes out almost too crunchy, and it's always way more delectable if you think about this the night before, or 6 or 7 hours. I put this on at about 1 o'clock today. So you can see I got a fair amount of water out of it. Okay, we'll just discard the water.